I'm Pamela Wright, 38. All my life, I believed family was the one place you could always trust, but one phone call in early October shook that belief to its core. My mom called, her voice trembling. "We can't afford Thanksgiving this year. Money's tight. We might even lose the house." A pang of guilt hit me. Thanksgiving in our Boston townhouse had always been a huge deal, turkey pies, the works. I agreed to let it go, convinced they were truly struggling. But right after Thanksgiving, as I scrolled through Instagram, my mom's post flashed on the screen: a lavish party with live music, a gourmet buffet, and a cocktail bar, all inside their house. My jaw dropped. My husband leaned over, squinting at the phone. "Didn't they say no party?" My stomach twisted. I had sent them $3,000 to cover rent. I opened Venmo, stared at the transaction, and hit refund, typing return to sender. My hands shook, anger tangled with relief. 15 minutes later, my dad's name lit up my screen again and again, call after call. I let it ring. One question pounded in my head: what were they hiding, and why did they feel the need to stage such a cruel lie? How about you? Have you ever uncovered a secret in your own family that made you feel betrayed? Share your story in the comments. I really want to hear it. A week before that call, we were still talking about Thanksgiving plans. Every November, my family gathered in my parents' old Boston townhouse for a true Thanksgiving celebration. My mom and dad turned their dining room into a feast zone: golden roasted turkey, creamy mashed potatoes with gravy, pumpkin pie, fresh from the oven, my dad's famous cornbread stuffing, and green bean casserole I'd perfected over the years. We'd squeeze around their oak table, cousins and aunts swapping stories, kids sneaking extra pie, and someone always starting a board game that ended in laughter or arguments. My mom would fuss over the table settings, insisting on cloth napkins, while my dad carved the turkey like it was a ceremony. I loved those days: the chaos, the warmth, the feeling of belonging. This year, I was ready to bring my casserole and maybe try a new cranberry sauce recipe. My husband, Kevin, was already joking about eating leftovers for a week, his way of saying he looked forward to it. Then my mom called. Her voice sounded heavy, not her usual upbeat self. "Pamela, we're in a tough spot," she said, pausing like it hurt to admit. "We can't afford Thanksgiving this year. The rent's overdue, and we might lose the house." I froze, phone pressed to my ear. Their townhouse was their pride, a creaky old place they'd rented for decades, filled with memories: Thanksgiving dinners, birthday parties, even my high school graduation celebration. I pictured them packing up, leaving it all behind. "How much do you need?" I asked, my chest tight. She hesitated, then said, $3,000 would cover it. I swallowed hard. That was a huge chunk of our savings money Kevin and I had been setting aside for a new car. But this was family. I couldn't let them lose their home. I'm an office manager at a small law firm in Boston, pushing papers and juggling schedules. Kevin works as a software engineer, and we do okay, but money's always tight. Mortgage payments, groceries, and unexpected car repairs eat up most of our budget. $3,000 wasn't pocket change. It was months of careful saving, skipping dinners out, and passing on new clothes. That night, I sat Kevin down at our kitchen table, the laptop open to our bank account. "My parents need help," I said, explaining my mom's call. Kevin leaned back, rubbing his neck. "That's a lot, Pam," he said, his voice soft but worried. "Are you sure they need it?" I nodded, thinking of my mom's strained tone. They've never asked before, I told him. It must be serious. Kevin sighed but agreed, trusting my judgment. I felt a mix of guilt and duty: guilt for dipping into our savings, duty to help the people who raised me. I opened our savings account, staring at the numbers. $3,000 was a gut punch, but I transferred it to my mom via Venmo, my fingers hesitating before hitting send. The app pinged, confirming the transaction. Minutes later, my mom texted, "Thank you, Pamela. This means everything. We'll use it for the rent." I exhaled, feeling like I'd done the right thing. Kevin squeezed my shoulder, but his eyes lingered on me like he sensed something I didn't. I brushed it off. Family comes first, I told myself. My parents taught me that through every Thanksgiving, every scraped knee, every late-night talk. They were the ones who showed me how to carve a turkey, how to show up for the people you love. I trusted them completely, believed every word of my mom's plea. Looking back, I should have asked more questions. Her voice had a rehearsed edge like she'd practiced the call. But I didn't catch it then. I was too busy thinking I'd saved their home that I'd kept our family's Thanksgiving spirit alive. That call felt like a crisis, but it was just the start of something much bigger, something that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my parents. Those weeks before Thanksgiving, I kept imagining a quiet holiday, just Kevin and me, maybe a small turkey breast and a movie marathon. I didn't mind. If it meant my parents could keep their house, it was worth it. I even called my mom a few days later to check in, asking if the money helped. "It's a lifesaver," she said, her voice brighter now. "We're sorting it out." I smiled, picturing them safe in their townhouse. I didn't know then that I'd been played, that my trust was a tool they'd used before. All I could think about was family, about doing right by the people who'd always been there for me. But that was before everything changed. Right after Thanksgiving, I was scrolling through Instagram. My thumb stopped cold when I saw my mom's post, a photo of a packed dining room, string lights twinkling, a live jazz band in the corner, and a buffet table loaded with lobster tails, carved roast beef, and a cocktail bar with a bartender mixing drinks. The caption read, "Best Thanksgiving yet." I blinked, thinking I'd misread. This was their Boston townhouse. No question, the worn leather couch in the background, the abstract painting my dad hung years ago. My heart thudded. They'd said no party, said they were broke. Said my $3,000 was for rent to save their home. I clicked through the photos, each one a punch to the gut. My mom laughing with guests, clinking glasses, the table decked out with crystal and cloth napkins. A watermark in the corner read, "Boston event snaps, proof they'd hired a professional photographer." I shoved my phone at my husband, who was sprawled on our couch watching a game. "Look at this," I said, my voice sharp. He squinted at the screen, scrolling through the photos, his brow furrowing. "Didn't they say no party?" He asked, his tone calm but pointed, like he was piecing together a puzzle I was too angry to see. I grabbed the phone back, my fingers trembling as I opened the comments. Friends I didn't know gushed, "Amazing spread, and you outdid yourself." One comment caught my eye, my mom replying, worth every penny, my penny, my $3,000. I felt my face burn, a mix of rage and embarrassment washing over me. I opened Instagram again, checking the post's date. It was uploaded the day after Thanksgiving, but the photos screamed fresh guests in sweaters, a pumpkin centerpiece still intact. I tapped the story archive, hoping I was wrong. There it was, a clip of the band playing time-stamped Thanksgiving evening. My stomach twisted. They'd thrown this party the very day they were supposed to be scraping by. I remembered my mom's voice on that October call, shaky, desperate, begging for help. "We might lose the house," she'd said. I'd believed her, dipped into our savings, thought I was saving their home. Now here she was, posting about a lavish party like it was nothing. Kevin leaned over, his hand on my shoulder. "Pam, what's going on?" he asked, his voice steady but concerned. I couldn't answer right away. My throat felt tight, like I'd swallowed glass. "They lied," I finally said, barely above a whisper. "They took my money and threw a party." Saying it out loud made it real, and the betrayal hit harder. I thought of every Thanksgiving we'd spent in that townhouse, the warmth of those nights, the trust I'd placed in my parents. I'd given up our car fund, skipped date nights to save that money, all because I thought they needed it. And they'd used it to play hosts, to show off. I scrolled through the photos again, zooming in on details, the bartender's sleek setup, the catered food, the band's equipment. This wasn't a potluck or a last-minute gathering. This was planned, expensive, deliberate. I checked my mom's followers, spotting names I recognized, neighbors, old family friends, even my dad's coworker. They'd invited half of Boston, it seemed, while I was at home eating a quiet dinner with Kevin, thinking I'd done the right thing. I felt like a fool, like they'd counted on me being gullible enough to hand over the cash without questioning. I sat there staring at the screen, my mind racing. Why would they lie? Why go through the trouble of asking me for money, knowing I'd see this? Did they think I wouldn't check Instagram? Or did they just not care? Kevin watched me, waiting for me to say something. "What are you gonna do?" he asked, his voice low, like he knew I was on the edge of something big. I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I couldn't let this slide. I thought of my mom's text after I sent the money. This means everything. Yeah, it meant everything to her image, her party, her ego. I closed the app, my hands still shaking. I wasn't just angry. I was done being their safety net. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. I opened Venmo, my thumb hovering over the app like it was a loaded gun. There it was, the transaction from early October, $3,000 sent to my mom, Cynthia, labeled, "For rent." My chest tightened thinking of her Instagram post, the jazz band, the lobster tails, the cocktail bar. She'd played me, used my money to throw a party while I thought I was saving their home. I tapped the transaction, my jaw clenched, and hit the refund request button. In the memo I typed, "Return to sender," each letter a jab at the betrayal. I pressed send, my heart pounding, fury mixed with a strange relief, like I'd finally taken a stand. The app pinged, confirming the request. I leaned back, exhaling, feeling lighter for the first time all day. My phone buzzed almost instantly. A text from my mom popped up. "Pamela, what's this about? Why are you asking for the money back?" Her words dripped with panic, like she'd been caught red-handed. I stared at the message, my fingers itching to reply, to unload every ounce of my anger. But I didn't. I set the phone down, letting her stew in her own mess. Kevin raised an eyebrow, his voice low. "You okay, Pam?" he asked, reaching for my hand. I nodded, but inside I was reeling. My mom's text wasn't an apology, it was a dodge, a desperate attempt to keep the lie going. I wasn't falling for it this time. Then my dad, Gary, called. His name flashed on my screen once, twice, 3 times in 10 minutes. I let it ring, each missed call a brick in the wall I was building between me and them. He left a voicemail, his voice strained. "Pamela, call me back. We need to talk about this." I didn't listen to the rest. I knew that tone, my dad trying to smooth things over like he always did when my mom stirred up trouble. But this wasn't a small fight over who forgot to call who. They'd taken my money, thrown a party, and lied to my face. I wasn't picking up. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. I turned my phone face down, the silence in the room heavy but deliberate. Kevin leaned forward, his eyes searching mine. "You don't have to answer them." He said, his voice steady, like he knew I needed permission to hold my ground. I nodded, my resolve hardening. I'm done being their ATM. I said the words sharp but true. I'd spent years jumping when my parents called, thinking it was my job to keep the family together. But this was different. I started to wonder if my dad knew about the party all along. He was always at those Thanksgivings, carving the turkey, playing host. Had he helped plan it? Had he stood by while my mom spun her sob story about losing the house? The thought made my stomach churn, my trust in him crumbling like old plaster. I picked up my phone again, not to reply, but to check Venmo one more time. The refund request was still pending, no response from my mom. I imagined her pacing their townhouse, trying to come up with an excuse. Another text came through. "Pamela, please, let's talk. You don't understand." I scoffed, tossing the phone onto the table. Understand? I understood perfectly. She'd used me, counted on my loyalty to get what she wanted. I thought of all the times I'd trusted her, believed her promises, sent money because she said it was for something urgent. How many of those were lies too? I felt like I was seeing her clearly for the first time, and it hurt more than I expected. Kevin got up, grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, and slid one to me. You did the right thing, he said, cracking his open. I took a sip, the cold liquid grounding me. I just can't believe they'd do this, I said, my voice low, almost breaking. After everything. Kevin didn't say much. He didn't need to. His quiet support was enough a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. But my mind kept circling back to my dad. He'd always been the softer one, the one who'd apologize for my mom's outbursts, who'd call to check in. If he knew about the party, if he let her lie to me, then my trust in him was gone too. I wasn't ready to face that yet, but I knew I couldn't unsee it. I glanced at my phone, still buzzing with another call from my dad. I silenced it, my decision firm. This wasn't just about $3,000, it was about respect, about not being taken for a fool. I'd given them my trust, my savings, my loyalty, and they'd thrown it back in my face, with a catered buffet and a hired band. I wasn't going to let them guilt me into backing down. For the first time, I felt like I was drawing a line, one they couldn't cross again. My mom's texts, my dad's calls, they could wait. I was done playing their game. The next morning, Gary showed up at our apartment in Boston. I opened the door to find my dad standing there, his face lined with worry, his usual easy smile gone. He held a coffee cup, probably from the gas station down the street, and his coat was rumpled like he'd barely slept. Pamela, can we talk? He asked, his voice low, almost pleading. I stepped aside, letting him in, though every part of me wanted to slam the door. Kevin was in the kitchen pouring cereal, but he stayed quiet, giving us space. I crossed my arms, leaning against the counter, waiting for whatever excuse my dad thought could fix this. He sat on our couch, clutching the coffee cup like a lifeline. I'm sorry about last night, he started, looking at the floor. I saw your Venmo request and I know you're upset. Upset didn't cover it, I was furious. Betrayed, but I let him keep talking. Your mom planned that Thanksgiving party months ago, he said, his words slow, deliberate. She used your $3,000 to pay off some debts, then spent what was left on the catering, the band, the whole thing. My breath caught, my mind reeling. Months ago. So her October call, that shaky voice begging for help to save their house, was a lie from the start. And my dad knew. You knew, I asked, my voice sharp, cutting through the room. He nodded, eyes still down. I told her not to do it, Pamela, but she said it was for the family to keep up appearances. I felt like I'd been slapped. Appearances, I repeated, my hands clenching. You let her lie to me, take my money for appearances. My dad flinched, finally meeting my eyes. We didn't want to lose face, he said, his voice cracking. The neighbors, our friends. They expect the big Thanksgiving at our place. It's tradition. Tradition. The word stung, twisting memories of our family dinners into something hollow. I thought of all the years I'd trusted him, believed he was the one who kept things steady while my mom pushed for extravagance. But he'd stood by, let her spin her story, let me empty my savings for a lie. I paced the small living room, trying to keep my voice steady. That was our money, I said, pointing toward Kevin, who was watching from the kitchen, his jaw tight. We gave up our plans. Our savings, because you said you were losing the house. My dad rubbed his face, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I know we messed up, he said. I should have stopped her. I'm sorry, Pamela. His apology felt like too little, too late. If he was sorry, why didn't he tell me the truth before? Why let me find out through a stupid Instagram post? I saw it now. He wasn't just a bystander. He was part of it, complicit in my mom's scheme. I'm done helping you. I said, my voice cold but firm. You and Mom need to figure this out on your own. His eyes widened like he hadn't expected me to push back so hard. Pamela, don't do this, he said, standing up, his coffee cup shaking in his hand. We're family. We can work it out. But his words felt empty, like a script he'd used before. I shook my head, my resolve solid. You don't get to decide that anymore, I told him. You broke my trust. Kevin stepped closer, his presence grounding me, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. My dad tried one more time, his voice softer now. I'll talk to your mom, Pamela. We'll make this right. But I didn't believe him. I'd heard his promises before when my mom overspent on vacations, when she forgot birthdays, when she made everything about her. He'd always been the one to smooth things over to keep the peace, but this time, it wasn't enough. I pointed to the door. You should go. I said, my throat tight, but my words clear. He hesitated, then nodded, his shoulders slumped. As he walked out, I felt a piece of my heart go with him, not because I wanted him to stay, but because I was mourning the dad I thought I had. A few days later, I met my Aunt Lori at a cafe in downtown Boston. The place was buzzing with lunchtime chatter, but Lori's sharp eyes locked onto me as I slid into the booth. My aunt had always been the blunt one in the family, never shy about calling things as she saw them. She sipped her latte, her silver bracelets clinking, and got straight to the point. I heard about the Thanksgiving mess, she said, her voice low but firm. You're not the only one. Your mom's pulled this on Pamela. I leaned forward, my coffee untouched, my stomach nodding at the thought that this wasn't just about me. Lori leaned back, crossing her arms. Cynthia's been borrowing money for years. She said, her tone clipped like she was tired of the story. Not just from you, from me, from cousins, even from her old college friends. Always the same excuse, some emergency, some bill they couldn't pay. I stared at her, my mind racing. My mom had done this before. Lori nodded, reading my expression. 2 years ago, she asked me for $5,000, said it was for medical bills. I gave it to her, no questions asked. Then I saw her post about a new designer purse and a weekend trip to Cape Cod. My jaw tightened, the memory of my mom's Instagram post, lobster tails and a jazz band flashing in my head, though I didn't bring it up. This was bigger than one party. She's got a habit, Lori went on, stirring her coffee with a spoon. She lies about money makes you feel guilty, then spends it on whatever makes her look good. Fancy dinners, clothes, parties to impress the neighbors. I felt a chill, like pieces of a puzzle were snapping into place. My mom's tearful call in October. Her shaky voice about losing the house. It wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. I thought of the times she'd asked for smaller amounts, claiming it was for groceries or car repairs. How many of those were lies, too? Did she ever pay you back? I asked, my voice barely steady. Lori shook her head, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. Not a dime. I had to cut her off. Lori set her cup down, her gaze softening but still serious. You need to hold your ground, Pamela, she said, her voice carrying the weight of experience. I didn't at first, and it cost me money. Trust, years of frustration. Cynthia's good at making you feel like you owe her, like it's your job to keep her afloat. I nodded, my throat tight. I'd felt that guilt my whole life, every time my mom called, every time she hinted at needing help. But hearing Lori say it out loud made it real, like I wasn't crazy for feeling used. She did it to you too, I asked, needing confirmation. Lori sighed, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. Oh yeah, she borrowed money for a family reunion once, then threw a gala for her book club instead. I was furious, but I let it slide. Don't make my mistake. I sat back, my coffee growing cold. Knowing my mom had done this to others didn't make it hurt less, it made it worse. She wasn't just careless with me. She was calculated, targeting anyone close enough to trust her. I thought of my dad, his weak apology at my apartment, claiming it was about keeping up appearances. Was he covering for her? Or was he just as bad? Lori seemed to sense my thoughts. Gary's not innocent? She said, her voice quieter now. He knows what she does enables it. He's too weak to stop her. That hit hard. My dad, the one who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd always seemed like the good guy, was part of this too. Lori reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You're doing the right thing, setting boundaries, she said. It's not easy, but it's the only way to protect yourself. Her words sank in, solidifying my resolve. I'd spent so long believing family meant saying yes no matter what. But Lori's story, her own betrayal, her decision to cut my mom off, showed me I wasn't alone. This wasn't just my burden. My mom's lies had burned bridges with others, and I was just the latest in line. I thanked Lori, my voice shaky but grateful. As we left the cafe, I felt clearer, like I'd been given permission to stop carrying my mom's weight. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. It was who she was. A week later, Cynthia showed up at my doorstep unannounced. My mom stood there, her coat dusted with December snow, her face a mix of defiance and desperation. I let her in, my stomach churning, already bracing for whatever excuse she'd brought. The living room felt too small for this, the air thick with tension as she sat on the edge of my couch clutching her purse. "Pamela, we need to fix this," she said, her voice sharp but trembling, like she was trying to hold on to control. I stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, waiting for her to explain why she'd lied, why she'd used my money for a party. She leaned forward, her eyes pleading. The Thanksgiving party wasn't about showing off. She said, her words rushed, practiced. It was about keeping our family tradition alive, bringing everyone together. I almost laughed, the irony stinging. Tradition, the same tradition she'd claimed they couldn't afford. I shook my head, my voice steady but cold. "You told me you needed $3,000 to save the house," I said. "Not to throw a party with a band and a bartender." Her face faltered, but she doubled down, pulling out her phone. "I can show you the receipts," she said, fumbling with the screen. "We paid the rent, Pamela. The party was just extra." But as she swiped, a notification popped up, a group chat with her friends and my dad, Gary. I caught a glimpse of the messages before she could tilt the phone away. One from her, sent the day after Thanksgiving, nailed the party. Pamela's money came through. My heart stopped, the emoji like a slap. I grabbed the phone from her hand, ignoring her protest, and scrolled up. More messages told her we might lose the house, worked like a charm, and my dad replying, "Good call, let's keep it low-key." My hands shook, my vision blurring with rage. They'd planned it, laughed about it, used me like a pawn. "You mocked me," I said, my voice low, dangerous. "You bragged about lying to me." I held up the phone, the screen glaring with proof. Cynthia's face went pale, her mouth opening then closing. "It's not what you think," she stammered, reaching for the phone, but I pulled it back. "It's exactly what I think," I snapped. "You took my money, threw a party, and laughed about fooling me." I thought of Lori's words at the cafe, her warning about my mom's pattern of lies. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, calculated, and my dad was in on it too. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd imagined, not just for the money but for the way they'd turned my trust into a joke. I set the phone down, my hands steady now, my anger giving way to clarity. "We're done," I said, looking her in the eyes. "I'm done with your lies, your excuses, your games. Don't call me, don't text, don't show up here again." Cynthia's eyes widened, tears welling up, but I didn't budge. "Pamela, please," she said, her voice breaking. "You're my daughter. We're family." Those words used to mean everything, but now they felt hollow, weaponized. "Family doesn't do this," I said, pointing to the door. "Get out." She stood, her purse clutched tight, her face a mix of shock and defiance. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice low, almost a threat. I didn't flinch. "No, I won't," I replied, holding the door open. She hesitated, then walked out, the snow crunching under her boots. I closed the door, my heart pounding, but my mind clear. I'd spent years believing her apologies, falling for her sob stories, but not anymore. That group chat wasn't just proof of one lie, it was proof of who she was. And I was done letting her pull me back in. By spring, Eric called with news about my parents. My cousin's voice was heavy, hesitant as he explained what I'd already suspected might happen. Cynthia and Gary had lost their Boston townhouse, unable to keep up with the rent after years of reckless spending. They'd moved in with a friend across town, their belongings stuffed into a small guest room. Eric said he'd heard it from a mutual acquaintance, someone who'd seen my mom's forced smile at a local diner, her usual flair dimmed. I listened, my heart heavy but not surprised. I hadn't heard from my parents since my mom's visit in December, and I hadn't reached out either. Their silence confirmed what I'd chosen: distance was my new normal. I hung up, staring out our apartment window at the budding trees. Kevin was at work, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I'd spent months replaying the lies, the Instagram post, the group chat, my dad's weak apologies. Each memory stung, but Eric's call brought a strange closure. My parents' downfall wasn't my fault, nor my burden to fix. I'd given them my trust, my savings, my loyalty, only to learn they saw me as a means to an end. Lori's words at the cafe echoed in my mind. This was their pattern, not my failure. I felt a quiet strength settling in a realization that family doesn't mean blind devotion. It means mutual respect, something my parents hadn't offered. Kevin and I had started rebuilding our life piece by piece. We'd saved enough to replace the car fund I'd drained for my parents, and we'd begun planning our own future free from their shadow. That November, we hosted our first Thanksgiving in our apartment. It was small, just us, a roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and a stack of board games we played until midnight. The table was simple, no jazz band or crystal glasses, but it felt honest ours. We laughed over Scrabble, arguing about made-up words, and for the first time in years, I felt unburdened, like I was building something real. I thought of the old Thanksgivings at my parents' townhouse, the ones I'd thought were about love, but were really about appearances. Our new tradition was different, small, messy, but true. Looking back, I saw the lesson clearly. Kindness isn't a debt others can exploit. It's a choice, one I could offer or withhold. My parents had taken my generosity for granted, assuming I'd always say yes. But saying no, setting boundaries, was my way of protecting myself. I'd learned that love doesn't mean sacrificing my peace, and family doesn't mean enduring lies. Lori had been right, cutting them off wasn't betrayal. It was survival. I still cared about my parents somewhere deep down, but I couldn't let their chaos define me anymore. I'd chosen myself and Kevin and the life we were making together. As I tidied the apartment that evening, I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. My phone stayed quiet, no texts from my mom, no calls from my dad. Eric's update was the last thread tying me to their world, and I was okay letting it fray. I wasn't bitter, just done. The lesson wasn't about revenge or resentment. It was about knowing my worth. I'd given too much for too long, but now I knew better. Next Thanksgiving, Kevin and I would carve our turkey, play our games, and build memories that didn't rely on lies. That was enough.